Hey, what is going on, Keap users? I wanted to share the replay of a conversation I had a couple of years back that is still uniquely valuable today because I haven't found more effective ways to solve the very same challenges we're about to outline. And what I'm talking about here are subscription management tactics. So, giving your subscribers, your paying members, the ability to cancel but not have them lose access prematurely, to wait until the end of their current billing period before removing their access. Or giving your subscribers the ability to upgrade or downgrade their membership and have that happen in a hands-off automated capacity that doesn't require you to start and stop subscriptions manually. So that and a few other membership tactics are covered throughout this presentation, which was originally delivered as a mastermind call hosted by my good friend Jordan Hatch. So take it away, Jordan, and the old version of me.
I am joined today by one of Infusionsoft's favorite trainers, Greg Jenkins from MonkeyPod Marketing. Greg's been around Infusionsoft for a long time. He's a former employee, but about a year and a half ago, went out and I think he had an entrepreneurial seizure and decided that he wanted to start his own business, his own training company. And he focuses on helping Infusionsoft users get unstuck and understand how to use the tool to further their business, be more successful in business. So Greg's a great friend of Infusionsoft, one of my friends, and a really smart guy. So I'm going to turn the time over to him, and he'll talk you through some of the cool stuff that he's prepared for you today.
Right on. Well, thanks for that intro and welcome, Jordan. I am pumped to be here, and as Jordan mentioned, my brand is MonkeyPod Marketing, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of self-promotion, but if you want to learn about me and the stuff that I do, you're welcome to find me there. So the concept today that I want to share with everyone is something that has come up a number of times with the customers that I've worked with, and it's specifically regarding Infusionsoft subscriptions. So whether you use subscriptions or you serve customers who use them, or maybe you're thinking about using subscriptions, this is very easily something that you might run into. And the problem that I'm solving here is that if somebody is subscribed to, let's say, your monthly subscription, and they want to transition to an annual plan or a quarterly plan, right? Well, it's hard. Infusionsoft doesn't have a very fluid way of handling that internally. There's no easy way for them to just switch their own subscription plan because most of the methods I've seen that people have kind of hacked together end up charging the customer more than once in a billing cycle, right? If I just had my monthly payment and then a week later I switched to my annual plan, well, you don't want to charge that customer twice within a 7-day window, right? It doesn't make sense to bill them a second time in the payment period that they're currently in. So the solution I'm going to present today solves that problem. It also, just to be clear, this will work not only for switching payment plans, but also for switching between subscription levels. So if you have a silver membership, a gold membership, and a platinum membership, and you want to allow your members to switch between those programs, this is a solution that will support that as well. I want to point out that I'm not going to use any plugins today. So this is totally native. I think we all have enough monthly subscriptions and tools that we're paying for, and so this is just a quick one to show you how you can do it in the app. The reason I call that out is because I'm sure that there are some plugins or third-party tools that handle this more elegantly, and I just want to be clear that I'm not trying to replace those solutions. Those probably are far and away more sophisticated than what I've got built, but I want to show you a way that you can build this on your own without any plugins if you choose to. Okay, so in order to demonstrate this, you need to have there's a little bit of setup work that needs to take place. So I'm going to walk through what I have set up here, and you're welcome to set it up, as I go through it, or you can, just watch and follow along. And when Jordan posts the recording, you can pause at the appropriate intervals and set it up as you view it after the fact. So the first thing we want to do is navigate to our tags section, and you're going to want to set up 4 different tags. So I've labeled mine, I've actually put them in a mastermind category, but the first tag is the MM, which is just mastermind for my sake, MM payment loop tag. And then we have MM membership upgraded, and that's the tag that gets applied when somebody transitions from the monthly to the annual or the silver to the gold, etc. And then I have MM monthly payment failed and MM monthly payment current. So failed would indicate that they missed the payment, and current would indicate that they were back on track and had made their subsequent payment. So you don't have to worry about how those tags are being applied right now, but I would just create 4 tags, the loop tag, the upgrade tag, the failed tag, and the current tag. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is we're going to create a custom field. So this does require one custom field. So let's go to admin settings, and I'm going to jump into my contact custom fields, and right under custom fields, you'll notice I've got a date field for last payment date. And it is important that it be a date field because we're going to use this with a field timer. So go ahead and choose, add a field, and you're going to select a date field. And I've labeled mine last payment date because what this field is going to house is the date of their previous payment or whatever their most recent payment is. Okay, so that's setup step number 2. Is you need to have a custom field set to the date type that's going to hold their last payment date. Again, you don't need to worry about how that's being populated yet. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So setup step number 3 is going to happen here under e-commerce settings and under the billing automation triggers. So I've actually got 3 different triggers set up, and I'm going to walk you through each of them. They're all initiated when a auto charge attempt is made. Okay, so that's the rule you're going to pick here, and then you'll click Add Trigger for each one. So the first one that I want to demo is right here, and it is applying the MM monthly payment current tag. So the way you set it up is when an auto charge is successful, and then you need to choose the, in my example here, I'm going to be upgrading from a monthly subscription to an annual subscription. So you choose not only the product, but the specific subscription plan that you're upgrading them from. So if you're going from silver to gold or gold to platinum or monthly to annual, you would choose the one that they are leaving. Okay, and then you choose if the previous invoice did not fail. Okay, which means that it was successful, and I'll explain why in just a moment again. And what we want to do is apply the MM monthly payment current tag. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that trigger. The second trigger that you're going to set up is, again, when an auto charge attempt is made. So you click Add Trigger, and it's going to look something like this. And in this one, it's for the first failure of an invoice. So when an auto charge fails, first failure, again, you choose the monthly subscription. And this time, it is applying a tag for payment failed. Okay, so let's do Save Trigger. And then the third one here, when an auto charge is successful and the invoice contains, and this is going to be the same subscription, so auto charge is successful, the previous auto charge did not fail, and we have the subscription selected, and then it's applying the MM payment loop tag. Okay, so now that those are the 3 triggers, there's one more caveat or one more setting that I need to illustrate here. So you may notice that this one has a rule, right? Run the following actions when all of the criteria for payment current rules are met. Okay, so this one is only going to apply the tag if they're currently up to date on their payments. Okay, so let's go ahead and click Edit, and I can actually show you that rule, payment current. And it's saying, hey, the payment is current when all of this criteria is true based on data from the contact record when the contact doesn't have the MM monthly payment failed tag. So if they don't have that tag, then this rule is going to run successfully and it'll just continue to apply that loop tag. Okay? The reason that's so important is because that first trigger I set up, right, that first trigger had the converse or the inverse of that rule. So this one is only going to apply this tag if the membership overdue rules are met. So again, I can click edit on that and I can show you what that rule looks like. But basically we're saying, hey, if they are overdue, we're going to apply this one, right? If they're overdue, we're going to apply the membership current tag. But if they're not overdue, if they're current, then we're just going to apply the loop tag, right? So those are the 3 different rules that we're going to set up. Now, that is the extent of the setup that you need to do. So just to recap, you're going to do 4 tags. You're going to do the 3 billing automation triggers, and then you're going to create 1 custom field, and that's all we really need. So now let's navigate to the campaign builder where the rest of this is going to take place. And I'm going to go ahead and open the campaign that I want to work in, and I've just called it Mastermind Campaign. You can call yours whatever you like, and this is the final product that we're going for. Okay, so this is the long-term product, but I'm actually going to rewind just a little bit to show you how we got here. Okay, so let's jump back to a previous version of this campaign, and I would recommend that you start by adding 2 goals to your campaign. So the first goal is just going to be the purchase, right? This is going to start when somebody buys your monthly subscription. So you want to set up that to look for not only a specific product, but within that, a specific subscription plan. So right here, you're looking for the monthly subscription. Remember, the goal of this campaign is to allow your users to seamlessly switch from their monthly plan to their annual plan, or their silver plan to their gold plan, or what have you, right? So I'm listening for that, and the reason I'm listening for that is because I want new people who purchase to immediately get added to this sequence. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this sequence or open this sequence. And the first thing that happens is we have a set field widget. So this is actually a relatively new widget. Within the last 1.5 years or so, it's been around. But within the last 6 months, there was an additional update to it that allows you to set a field, right, especially if it's a date field, to the current date when a contact reaches this point of the sequence. So that's why this is so important, because we can make an assumption that when somebody enters this sequence, they just made a payment, right? The only way into this sequence is either when a monthly payment is received or when a new subscription actually starts. So when one of those 2 items takes place, we're going to go ahead and the first thing we're going to do is either set or update the value in the last payment date field. Okay, so I want to make sure everybody understands that. The reason we're doing that is because we need to know when the last payment they made was. And later, we're going to use that information to make sure that when they upgrade, it's happening at the end of that cycle, or 30 days after their last payment. Okay, so another step that's in here, just an administrative thing, but I recommend doing it as well, is after you set that field to the current date, you're going to remove a tag. So that's the payment loop tag. Now, if this is the first time a contact has entered this sequence that they just purchased, they're not going to have that tag. So, of course, it wouldn't need to remove it. But the goal of this is it's going to loop every month. It's going to loop once a month. So you want to make sure that this tag gets removed so that it can be reapplied. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then I've added a 30-day timer here. You don't need to do that, but the reason I have that there is because I like to be able to see on the reporting tab the difference between active and queued contacts, right? So I know that if anybody's in queued, it means for some reason they were in this sequence for longer than 30 days. So all I'm doing is using that timer to hold people in this active number just so that at a glance I can tell the difference between people who have been in there for less than 30 days or more than 30 days. And that's not unique to this setup. You can use that for other campaigns just to make your reporting a little bit more useful. Now the goal is they're going to be in this sequence, and then that billing automation trigger that we just set up. So back here under the e-commerce settings, each month when they make a payment, that billing automation trigger is going to tag them with that loop tag. So as soon as they get that loop tag, it'll jump them to here, right? It'll also achieve this goal. So this one is listing for the payment loop tag. This one is also listing for the payment loop tag, right? So as soon as that happens, it pulls them out and it drops them back in. If you've never set up a looping campaign structure, this is kind of the concept. The reason that this works is because when a goal is achieved, in a campaign, it performs the stop functions first, and then it performs the start functions. So it effectively pulls them out and drops them in. It happens, simultaneously, but the system processes it in that order, so it allows it to loop. So that's the goal there, is each month it'll loop, right? Now, the way I've handled the upgrade is I've given them a landing page. And my vision for this was, I might have an email offering that upgrade, or I might have a link inside their membership area, or maybe I even have a web form that I've embedded that allows them to select the upgrade. But the goal is we need some sort of indicator that pulls them out of this loop once they have designated that they want to upgrade or change their subscription plan. So let's take a look at that landing page. I don't think I put a whole lot in here. It's just a simple, use this form to switch your annual membership or your monthly membership to the annual billing cycle. The annual cycle we bill, blah, 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 blah. And then I've added a checkbox here. So yes, I'd like to save 20% by switching from to the annual membership plan, and then confirm, right? That's all I've got there, a simple thank you page that just says, hey, thanks, your new subscription plan will start on the next date, sets the right expectation, okay? So that's the way I've handled this. And the reason that this form is important is, of course, because once they designate or raise their hand saying, hey, I want to upgrade, it's going to pull them out of this. And then here's the cool part, right? Because we have their most recent payment date set to a custom field, in here, what we can do is wait until 29 days after. So I've got that timer set to 29 days after their last payment date at 11:45 p.m. And then it's going to run an action set that cancels that particular subscription. And then 30 days after, right? So this is actually just 15 minutes apart. So at 11:45 p.m. on the 29th day, it cancels, and at midnight or 12 a.m. on the 30th day, it starts the annual plan. So that's where the switching actually takes place. We have to set up two different action sets, one that cancels the initial plan, and then one that starts the new one. And again, this would be, if you're not doing monthly and annual, if you're doing like a silver and a gold, this would cancel the silver and this would start the gold. Or if you're doing a downgrade, right, this would cancel the gold and this would start the silver. You can use this to switch plans however you like. And then the last step of this is just applying a tag that says membership has now been upgraded. And maybe upgraded is the wrong word because maybe it's just a lateral shift. So maybe it's updated instead of upgraded. So the reason I apply that tag is quite honestly just to achieve this goal and mastermind membership updated or upgraded, because I want this campaign to be kind of neat and tidy. I don't want to end up with a whole lot of people queued in this sequence. So let's look at the next iteration of this campaign. So I'm going to go to the next version. I think these first two are the same. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is the next step. That first part hasn't changed, but now what I've done is added a caveat. What if their payment fails, right? And the reason that this is important is because if their payment fails, it means that it wasn't updated on their annual or their monthly billing date, right? So the way it works in Infusionsoft is if a monthly subscription fails, it's going to try again. I think the default is 2 days later, and then it'll try again 2 days after that, and after 3 times, it has reached its maximum retry attempts. So what I've done is set up that billing automation trigger so that if it fails on the first time, the reason I did the first time is because I didn't want it to succeed on the second time or on the third time, because then when it loops, it would set the wrong date. It would be 2 days after or 4 days after, depending on if it was the second or third time. So once it fails once, I'm applying a tag, and you can see it's my monthly payment failed tag, and it just pulls them all the way out, okay? So here's where things get a little bit tricky for you guys. I've put these two campaign structures on the same campaign canvas, but I think I would actually build this one down here on a separate canvas. So I would build a campaign that looks like this, and then I would build a campaign that looks like this, right? I would put those on different campaigns. But for the sake of this call and this demonstration, I've got them all on one screen just so I don't have to switch back and forth. So when somebody fails, it temporarily pulls them out of all of this, okay? And it starts a different process, monthly payment fail. And so if somebody fails, right, it drops them in here, and the first thing it does is remove that monthly payment current tag. So the reason that that's so important is because they're no longer current. If they're in this sequence, we know that they're overdue. We know that they missed their most recent payment, or at least missed, one aspect of it. I've also got a 31-day timer in here, just for the same reason. From the reporting tab, I want to quickly be able to see, have they been in here for more than 1 month or less than 1 month? And that timer enables me to see that at a glance. Now, once they make a payment, I have a billing automation trigger here, right? So it should be this first one. There we go. That's listening for a successful payment of the monthly plan with the membership is overdue. So if they're in that sequence, right? If they're in this sequence, we know that they have the overdue tag, okay? And once that happens, it's going to apply the monthly payment current tag. Now, this is sort of an advanced feature, but you may notice that I said if an auto charge is successful and the previous auto charge for this invoice did not fail. So what I'm actually looking for is I'm hoping that they'll make one successful payment in here, and then this goal will be fired on their next successful payment. And the reason is I want to get them back onto that normal monthly date. So if my normal billing date is the 15th of the month, well, when it fails on the 15th, it's going to pull me out and drop me in here. But if I make a successful payment on the 20th, right, well, I don't want it to immediately apply this tag and put me back in here and then set my new billing date to the 20th, because that's not the way my subscription was set up. I would be billed 25 days after that on the following month's 15th. So just trust me, what you want to do is leave them in there for one full payment cycle, and then once they get back onto their normal monthly date, the billing automation trigger is going to apply that tag that says current again, and we should have this goal set up to be listening for that tag as well. So if they're just looping normally, that's fine, but if they fail, they're going to go down here, and then they're going to wait, and then once they get back on track, it'll start that top track one more time. So there's our payment loop tag. So that's effectively the size of this campaign. What we've done is we've given the ability for new customers to enter this sequence, right? And if they make a successful monthly payment, it's going to just loop them and start over and update their most recent payment date. We've also given people the ability to pull themselves out of that perpetual loop and request that plan switch or that upgrade. We're going to use action sets to make that happen. We're going to use the custom field date, last payment date, to govern when that takes place. So this, to me, is really the ninja part of this equation, is we're using that date to make sure that at the end of their normal billing cycle, it just seamlessly switches which plan they're on. And that's where I think the real crux is people get complaints if they get billed more than once during a payment cycle. So this solves that issue. And then if they fail a payment, my fear was I didn't want people to request an upgrade while they have a payment overdue, and then you have to deal with collecting and wrapping up that previous subscription and also starting the new one. So that's why the payment failed tag pulls them out. And the reason I emphasize this being on a different campaign is because this goal is not an entry point. So if they're in this payment failed section, they can't fill this form out. It won't trigger the update of any kind. So they can only request that upgrade if they're in this sequence. Otherwise, it's just going to be filling out a form, nothing's going to happen. So that's the reason I broke that out into a separate canvas, is because I didn't want this goal to act as an entry point. If you're listening along and that concept went over your head, the basic idea is that goals, unless they're at the beginning, goals can only be achieved by contacts who are already in that campaign. You can adjust that, you could change it to any contact, but I'm using that strategically here so that this goal is only available if you're in this campaign. If you get switched to this payment failed cycle, then it's not going to work for you. So that's about the size of things for this campaign structure. There's no emails going out, there's no customer-facing communication, although you certainly could. You could add that in here, just notifying them that their plan has switched or recognizing that you've received their request and that you've made that change. But I haven't gone that deep. This is just the administrative structural stuff that you need. The goal methods that I've used here, you could easily switch those for API calls if you've got a different system, as long as it is passing that billing information back to Infusionsoft. The other thing about where I'm set up here is that I started it with a new subscription, right? So people who I started it with new people who purchase, but I want to call out that you could just as easily set this up listing for, it could start with an existing payment. So if you have people who are already on a payment plan, right, who are already on a subscription plan, you could set this up to just listen for them, and in 1 month's time, all of your existing members would be added and you would have that last payment date. So if you plan to offer this to your existing members, and I will for mine, I've got a membership model within my MonkeyPod business, and so I plan to get this going with for a full month, so I get all of them to have a last payment date on file. And then my plan is to introduce this goal so that new people are getting added as well before I even tell my members that they have the opportunity to upgrade. Because unless you have this date on file, you're going to have a hard time transitioning them without a little bit of overlap. So a couple other things I want to note is, if somebody, let's say you're moving somebody from a silver subscription to a gold subscription. Well, when they request that upgrade, you might want to wait before you bill them, right? That makes sense. But you also might want to switch their access right away, right? If they just requested, they're currently paid up, but we don't necessarily need to wait until the end of that payment cycle before switching what they have access to. So if you're using tags to govern that permission, you could remove their current permission tag, right? And then you could immediately apply whatever their new permission tag is, right? So if it's switching from silver to gold, this would be their new permission level. And then maybe there's some corresponding access that is connected to in whatever membership platform you're using, right? My point of this is that the billing is behind the scenes. That's just to create a better customer experience so that they aren't billed in one cycle. But if somebody requests an upgrade today, do you really want to wait 30 days before they get access to that content? And obviously 30 would be the maximum. If they request it on day 28, it might only be 2 days before that actually takes place. But let's go ahead and switch their access right away so that if they log in the following day, they've now got the benefit of that new plan, even though in your system it's waiting for the appropriate time before switching over on a reporting aspect. So I wanted to call that one out as well. Now there is one little conundrum here that I didn't touch on, but it's with the overdue monthly, right? It's going to remove the tag and that's it. But you probably need some sort of system in place to collect that payment or to reach out to them. And so you might choose to add additional steps into this sequence, like a task for somebody to reach out to them, or an email, right, indicating that, hey, you've got an overdue balance, right? And you can do that in this sequence here. But as Jordan called out earlier, there's some other ways outside Infusionsoft to leverage automation, right? And so the billing automation triggers allow you to do that as well. So I could actually use the very same billing automation trigger, right? That's applying. It's actually the other one here. Fails. So right here, it's applying the monthly fail. You could also use this to send an email. And the benefit of sending the email from this interface is you have access to a set of merge fields that are tied to the customer's credit card and billing information, which you really can't leverage, as far as I know, anywhere else in the software. So I didn't build this in, but I do want to illustrate that you probably want to have some sort of automated process in place when a payment fails in general. Actually, even if you don't plan to do any of this, you should have some sort of automated collections process in place when a payment fails.
All right, so there you have it. Hopefully you picked up a few tactics from this video that can serve you as you are building out and delivering the experience you want your subscribers or your members to have. If you found this video helpful, leave a comment, go ahead and like or subscribe or share it with someone who it can serve. Take care.